Should the pro-Palestine brigade actually be thanking President Trump for his Middle East peace deal? It's time for the head-to-head. Well, President Trump has been hailed today after Hamas officially agreed to that Middle East peace plan.
Last night, we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
Well, there are the questions now about whether or not he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, but the Israeli Prime Minister seems to think so, posting on X earlier today, give him a peace prize. There you go. Meanwhile, the pro-Palestine brigade, of course, are set to protest in London and probably other towns and cities in the UK this weekend. Instead, surely, they should be thanking President Trump. Going head-to-head on this now are the journalist and Middle East expert Jonathan Sacerdoti and leading member of the Revolutionary Communist International, Hamid Alizadeh. Thank you very, very much, chaps. Great to see you both. Jonathan, I'll start with you. Right then, so should all those pro-Palestine protesters inevitably on the streets this weekend be having banners saying thank you, President Trump?
Well, it's hard for me to speak for those people because I obviously don't really understand them very deeply. But I would say that if you are, against the war that's been going on in Gaza, and if you don't like what's been happening for the people in Gaza after they started the war on October the 7th, 2023, then I presume you would be relatively pleased that there is a prospect of that war ending and that the terrorists who have been keeping those hostages all that time would be forced to give them back. Obviously, anyone of any good faith would want that to happen, especially even if only because they feel it would ease up the pressure on the people in Gaza, but presumably also because if they're decent human beings, they would want to see those people returned back home from the torture, starvation, and in many cases actually death that they've been subjected to there. So I would assume that most people would welcome this. Obviously, on the other side of this, it's the idea that there will be many, many actual terrorists released back into Gaza from Israeli jails, and that is quite a bleak prospect.
Hamid, I'll bring you in now. Would you like to take this opportunity to thank President Trump?
Well, no, I wouldn't. I don't think the Palestinian people have much to be thankful for, to be honest. They've been starved, they've been shot, they've been bombed. Their homes have been destroyed, hospitals, schools, water supply, sanitation, and all of this with the full complicity of Donald Trump, Joe Biden, by the way, Keir Starmer, all of them. And what they're getting now is the possibility, we don't know if this is actually going to happen, but the possibility of a cessation to the immediate bombing, but a life in the most barbaric conditions, with their affairs being run by a committee headed by Donald Trump and Tony Blair, people who have nothing to do with Palestine. And then they'll be guarded by troops provided by other Muslim countries. So I don't think this is a very thankful situation to be in. And it's not even reducing Gaza to a colony, but to a prison camp, essentially. And no, I don't think there is anything. So
when everyone was out on the streets, I'll sit with you, Hamid, for this, if that's all right. So when everyone has been out on the streets demanding a ceasefire, constantly, ceasefire now, now they've got a ceasefire, do you not think it's, a little bit, I suppose, shameless that just because it's President Trump who's helped to broker that deal, that people can't say, well, thank you, you've given us what we wanted?
What the Palestinian people want is an end of oppression and an end of occupation. That's not what's happening at all. They're being held at gunpoint.
Right.
President Trump said, unless you accept all of my conditions, I will obliterate you and I will unleash a hell on you that's unlike anything you've ever seen. So I don't know. I don't think that's a very, very good situation. And this deal is no deal for the Palestinians. And furthermore, there's no guarantee that it will resolve anything.
Right. Okay, Jonathan, I'll let you come back to that then. So it looks as though that this deal, despite potentially it being a ceasefire, bringing a stop to the killing on both sides, a kind of prisoner/hostage exchange, it's not good enough. People can't bring themselves to thank the president.
Well, look, I can't really speak to those people. I assume there are some people who are kind of into Palestinianism as a movement who aren't pleased about this because they consider it to be too much of a defeat for Hamas and the other Palestinian terrorist groups who engaged in those brutal and horrific activities on October the 7th. Those people maybe don't like this sort of deal because what it tries to pursue is peaceful coexistence between Palestinians and Israel. And indeed, the 21 points of the plan, I mean, we'll never get near, numbers 21 and 20 and there downwards. It will be amazing if we can just get back the hostages that they've been keeping and torturing for that long and starving. If that bit gets done, that will be an achievement, I think, especially as there are, Hamas sources now publishing in Arabic that God let the ceasefire be like the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, followed by a conquest like the conquest of Mecca. So we can see that there are forces within mainstream Palestinian political movements, including from Hamas, who really just want to do this in order that they can regroup and later on come back with more bloodshed and more violence against Israel. People who are in favour of that probably won't like the idea of a ceasefire that leads to coexistence.
I'm just going to give you the final word on this, and sorry, we are slightly pressed for time, sorry, what I want to ask you is what did you actually want then? So would you have been happy for a deal that kept Hamas in power in Gaza?
No.
Right.
I'm not in favor of anything that's going on at the moment. I'm for the overthrow of the Zionist state. Now, the other gentleman who's on this show, I forgot your name, you talk about peaceful coexistence. But that is exactly the opposite of what's going to happen. What's going to happen is a Palestinian people is going to be held in a chokehold by a regime which has no interest in peaceful coexistence, by a regime which thrives, by a regime which thrives on division, which thrives on fomenting division between Jews and Palestinians, Jews and Muslims.
But Hamas would have to go in under any deal, Hamid, wouldn't they? Sorry, but Hamas surely would. Any deal would have to have involved Hamid, wouldn't it? Hamas.
I'll tell you this: Hamas is the result of the conditions of the Palestinian people. If you get rid of Hamas, another resistance movement will come up because the Palestinians are put in such horrible conditions that the only way to defend themselves would be to organize themselves. And so you can get rid of Hamas, something else will come.
So no matter what, okay, all right. No matter what happens there, we're going to end up with Islamist terrorists running Gaza.
Want to destroy Israelis and Jews. I mean, he said it himself. That's what he wants to see as the end of the war, is just the destruction of Israel. Come off it.
Okay.
No one is talking about the destruction of Israel.
Well, you did. You said the overthrow of the Zionist regime. That's what you said.
The Zionist state is an abomination and a disgrace to the Jews. And to the memory of the Holocaust has nothing to do with the destruction of the Jews.
Sorry, I don't want to be accused of trying to cut anyone off. We're massively pressed for time. I'm going to have to go, so I've got other things to go. But thank you. It was very much a head-to-head, so I appreciate that. That is journalist and Middle East expert Jonathan Sacerdoti and the leading member of the Revolutionary Communist International, Hamid Alizadeh. Thank you. Right, gosh, OK, quite revealing stuff there, I thought.